Hello and welcome to the At the Races Aintree and Grand National Preview Show. It's brought to you in association with our sponsors BoyleSports. More about their offers and betting offers for Aintree and for the Grand National itself during the course of our programme. But let me, Sean Boyce, introduce you to our panellists for our show this evening. We are joined by two stellar guests to take you through the action. First of all, a man who really needs no introduction, but I'll give him one anyway. He's only had a few rides in the National, already finished second. Some will know him as the rider of nearly 1,000 winners between the flags. Some will think of him as a man who went on to become the best National Hunt amateur of this or any other generation. But to us, the At the Races family, he will always be known as the Codd father. Jamie Codd is with us. Welcome, Jamie.
Boycey, how are you doing?
I'm very well. Very well. I'm excited, actually. I'm excited. Looking forward to it. It'd be great, wouldn't it, to have everyone back at Aintree?
Yeah, absolutely. I was there last year, and it was. Oh, look, it was an empty place now, without crowds and atmosphere non-existent. So this year is just going to be cracking. I'm really looking forward to the Grand National this year.
It's going to be exciting. 3 fabulous days. We'll talk about all 3 days as well as the big race itself. But Jamie is only one half of what I have to offer you today. In the other corner, I have the man with the flying feet. The man with the jaw-juddering jab. He is a pundit, pontificator. He is a betting man. He is a breeder. He is an owner. If it can be done, it will be done. Mr. Kevin Blake is with us. Welcome, Kevin.
Boys, you never fail to impress with these intros, and you always get them in one take. That's the beauty with live television, boys. There's no room for error, so we need operators like you pulling the strings and coming out with intros like that. Well, how are you doing?
You kind of, the clue is in the title, isn't it? It's live, so we've got no choice. We have to do it in one take, come what may. As Jamie says, it will be great, won't it, Kevin? 2020, no meeting at all. 2021, fair play. We got the races run, which was great, but behind closed doors. But this is a meeting. The whole of Liverpool comes alive, and this is going to be great to be back.
Yeah, it's such a massive thing in Liverpool, Boise, and like they've been through the ringer a little bit in that regard, you know, to have it robbed from them in 2020, and then last year, you know, was what it was. We ended up having an iconic renewal of the race, but to have it with no one there to appreciate it was a bit of a disappointment. But look, it's all behind us, Boise, in the main, and we're looking forward to, as we did at Cheltenham, a real rejuvenation of all that makes these big meetings great.
Yeah, we're going to focus first of all on the Grand National, fellas, and we'll come to the other races. We'll focus mainly on the Grade 1s, and there are lots of them over the 3 days. But let's start with the Grand National. Before we get into the horses, Jamie, if you were looking at the race now with a view to choosing a horse to ride yourself. There was a time when we used to look for a certain type of national horse. They'd be older, perhaps more experienced, 10, 11-year-olds. They wouldn't want to be carrying too much weight. You'd want them to have been to Aintree before. I'm not sure any of that sticks anymore. So if you're looking at it now, given the way the race is now, what kind of a horse would you look for?
I suppose you want something with just good current form that's going to stand up and further race. You know, like, and obviously you want something that'll travel and that is a good jumper as well. Look, I think the way the National is set up nowadays with defences and that, like, you can get away with a lot more. We see a lot more horses going out on the final circuit, so you know there is a lot more finishers and that. So, like, I just think you want something that's able to jump out there, travel really well. Look, you might get away with the odd mistake. You see Tiger Roll a couple of times he won it. You don't have to be a fantastic jumper. You just have to be nimble and quick and get away with the odd mistake. So, yeah, look at this. There's no set for me. I'd love to be riding Delta Work on the back of what he done in Cheltenham.
Yeah. Coming in off the back of a huge run in the National Hunt Chase. What about you, Kevin, from a punter's point of view in terms of narrowing the field? And don't just say Irish, because last year, of course, famously on ITV, you said the first 3 or 4 home will be Irish, and it was a huge prize. And you could have gone further. I think the first 10 of the first 11 were Irish, weren't they?
Yeah.
But looking beyond the Irish angle, and the majority are Irish this year, how would you narrow the field from a punter's point of view? Is there a profile anymore, or have we thrown out that sort of rule book?
No, there is a profile. It's a different profile, Sean. Like, personally, you know, I don't look any further back than 2013 anymore, because I think the race changed fundamentally when they changed the fences. You know, it's a different race now. It's still a great race. but it is different. And as Jamie says, like different attributes are key now. Like you don't need to be the safe and sound jumper, that you used to be. You can be a bit lower and a bit braver. And, it's just such a classier race now. Like even I heard an interview with Martin Brazel there this morning, and he was talking about number 6 Valverde. He was rated 138 when he won the race, and that wouldn't get you anywhere close to getting a run nowadays. What's the current cutoff point at the minute is 144, I think. And look, in terms of what I look for, like I like a younger horse. I like one that's been campaigned, target trained. I think is a big help, and often, while it can sound parochial, an awful lot of the horses that end up being target trained for this race are trained in Ireland, and like there's pretty simple reasons for that, Sean. In that, if you're 145 to 155 rated, say in handicap chaser in Ireland, like there's a relatively small few races that are worth a lot of money. The Kerry National, the Troy Town, the Paddy Power, and the Tiestes. The list isn't loads longer than that, and they're always full fields, very difficult to win. So when you have a race like the Grand National that's worth £1 million, a lot of Irish trainers will consider it worthwhile to train with only one race in mind all season. And when we get to the big race, like you can pick out quite a few that fit that profile here. Their handicap marks are very much intact, and they've been kept fresh for the big one. Whereas British trained horses, Boyce, as you know, there's so many valuable handicaps all year, and they're not always electric in terms of competitiveness. So it can be very hard for a British trainer to hold on to one all season with a view to the Grand National and not go pot hunting as the season goes. So it's not a coincidence that the Irish have been doing so well. Like I think it's been a domination, really, Sean. Like you look at the last 3 renewals alone, I think there's only been one British trained horse to get within 25 lengths of the winner. It hasn't been close in recent years. And I know the handicap chases at Cheltenham, the British did particularly well, but I don't know if a few pounds here and there is going to necessarily reverse the recent dominance of the Irish in it.
Well, it's a stronger field for the Irish than ever before. It looks like they could have the majority of the runners for the first time ever, I think I'm right in saying. 10 of the first 11 home last year were Irish trained. I had a programme with Jamie Lynch on Sky Sports Racing the other day. We looked at a few of the sort of aspects of the current profiles. As you've said, Kevin, just looking at recent years, and this is just the last 5 runnings, just the last 5 years, first 4 horses home. So not just the winners, but the first 4 home. So obviously that's a cohort of 20 horses, 5 times 40. 75% of them were Irish, including, as we said, that absolute dominance last year, despite having the minority of the runners, don't forget. 65% had never been to Aintree before. That old idea that you wanted an Aintree veteran, not the case. Kevin's point about the younger horses, nearly half of them were aged 8. And also, from a betting point of view, quite interesting, nearly half of them, 45%, were sub 12 to 1, 11 to 1 or shorter. So all of that's quite interesting. Right, that's enough stats. Stats schmats, that's what you're thinking, Jamie Codd. I can see you glazing over there. It's about the horse for you, so let's talk about a few horses. Let's start with Delta Work. You said he's the horse coming in with the big run under his belt.
Yeah, look, he is, absolutely. Like Cheltenham was, it went really well for him. I thought he took to the fences really, really well, and I've no doubt that he'll take to Aintree really well. School, brilliant at home. Like he's a proper Grade 1 horse coming back into a handicap. Would Manila Times any second now, would they have won a Grade 1 at Christmas at Leopardstown? I don't think so. Whereas this lad looks like he's on a very, very favourable mark for this.
I think I referred to him running the national. You won't run the cross country, of course, and ran down Tiger Roll. Just while I've got you, Jamie, just to get your view on this, if you were riding Delta Work there and you're coming up behind Tiger Roll and you know that it's Tiger Roll's last race and you know it's going to make history and it's going to bring the house down if Tiger Roll wins, would you pull your punches a little bit and just finish second, or would you give it everything? Would you have jumped off at the last?
Would you have jumped off at the last, Jamie?
You can't ask a jockey that in these times, Boyce. That's such an inappropriate question. Like, you can't say those things.
That means you would. Otherwise, you just say no, wouldn't you?
I've opened up Twitter in certain cases about this kind of crack, and no, I'll stay out with this one.
Well, we know what happened, and of course, Delta Work won. He's got to be a big player. Is he the best of the Jigginstown chances, do you think, Kevin?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Look, we can all see the case for him. He's a 5-time Grade 1 winner. He's a class act. One wouldn't be surprised if he was sweetened up by the cross country last time. But I always am cautious of taking that cross country form too literally. It's a novelty race, really. And Tiger Roll was on ground that he isn't particularly shown the best effect on. I just don't know about it, Sean. And more so than anything with Delta Work, for me, through a lot of his chasing career, he has been a bit inconsistent at his fences. He can be a bit sticky, he can get in a bit deep, and it often cost him a little bit at the highest level over fences. And it just wouldn't be a shock to me if he didn't love the jumping test. I know it's not what it used to be, but it still is a bit different, and it just wouldn't be a shock to me if he didn't love it.
OK, let's have a look at the market, because it's quite congested, as you'd expect, towards the top. It's quite a good game, isn't it, trying to predict what will go off favourite. I gave a shout to Snow Leopardess the other day just because of the story with her, a mare, a grey, she's had her foal, all that sort of stuff. Any Second Now is up there, Delta Work is up there. Scaria 10, he could go off favourite yet as well. Enjoy Dallin not far off them. And then Eclair Surf needs to get in, of course, to the race. BoyleSports, you can see at the bottom there, looks like they're going to be paying 7 places on the Grand National. That will kick in tomorrow afternoon, by the way. We'll give you the terms and conditions on that. That's a mobile offer, I think I'm right in saying. So we'll check all the fine print on that for you as well, but watch out for that. But 8-1 the field. So a question mark, Kevin, over Delta Work, a question mark or two. What about Snow Leopardess, though, at the front of the market? Because she's got the lot, hasn't she? Progressive, Beecher winner, on the upgrade, nice weight. What's not to like about Snow Leopardess?
Very little, Sean. Very little. She's been deadly, since she's come back from becoming a mother, come back from injury. She's been quite relentless in terms of her improvement. And I suppose one of the nice things that we have with her is we've seen her over the fences, and she was absolutely deadly. She was particularly good in the Beecher. She just really enjoyed the experience, really lit her up. Went into a clear lead at one point, and was just held on in the end, held on by nose. But you know that she's going to enjoy the experience almost certainly and give a real bold show out in the front end. I don't think she has to lead or anything, but she'll be bang up there. And look, her price, she's going to be one of the faves, you'd imagine. There will be a huge amount of attention on her because of the story. But of all the ones at the top of the market, Sean, if you gave me one of the top 4 or 5, I think she's very, very solid. It'd be hard to see her not putting up a bold show. She's not my pick to win, but I think she'll be bang there. OK, all those extra places to play with, potentially. Talking of places, Jamie, Any Second Now, 3rd last year, £7 higher this year, but has won the Bobby Joe since. The Bobby Joe, great race to come into the National off the back of. What do you make of Any Second Now's chances this year?
Look, he was very unfortunate last year to get hindered twice. It was my God, when you're looking for bad luck, he got it in a double spoonful. I was very impressed with his prep run behind Scaria 10 and Fairy House. I thought it went really, really well. Scaria 10 seemed to get the run of the race, but Any Second Now came back and nabbed them on the line. I thought it was a really, really gutsy performance. Will he come back and win? He could absolutely come back and win. I just thought he got enough weight for what he had done, but on the back of last year's run at Aintree, you'd have to imagine he has a massive chance.
Yep, Any Second Now with a massive. What about Scaria 10? Because there was that whisker between them, of course, in the Bobby Joe, Kevin, and he's technically perhaps a few pounds well, and particularly if you'd be inclined to upgrade that Bobby Joe run, something that the British handicapper hasn't done, of course.
Yeah, look, he's got the right type of profile, doesn't he? He's an 8-year-old. He's only had 7 runs over fences. He had that big run in the National Hunt Chase at the Cheltenham Festival last year, 3rd to Galvin. And, Gordon has been kind of pointing him in that direction. Disappointing in the Irish Grand National last year, you'd have to say. And it's just interesting, I thought, that they put the blinkers on him in the Bobby Joe. If they thought that was really going to benefit him, you'd wonder why they didn't hold on to them until the National maybe. But he's got the right type of profile. The form reads well, but he's just... I don't know how much I'd like to trust him, Sean. He's thrown in that a couple of disappointing runs. The TS days, the Irish National before that. I want to like him, but I don't love him, if you know what I mean. It's
funny, we spoke, I don't know whether you saw it to Max McNeil, the owner, but also to Adrian Heskin, the jockey, and he said the same thing, Jamie. He's a tricky enough horse. He's a bit of a challenge, I think, sort of mentally to to work him out by the sound of things and to get the best out of him.
Yeah, I suppose for me, I thought he should have just went and won in Fairyhouse. I thought he got every opportunity. I thought Jordan Gainford gave him a great ride, and I just thought he should have won in Fairyhouse, and then that would have set him up lovely for the national. But there's just that doubt there that when he didn't go ahead and do it, forget about the Tiestes, very, very tacky, deep ground. I won a point on this lad. He's a terrific jumper. And I just think the big fences will suit him. He's a big scopy horse. I think the fences will suit him. But there is that doubt in your mind whether he'll just go on and actually do it. Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Talking about horses being well in, Ascaria 10 is £4 well in. Eclair Surf, many people think, Kevin, after what Win My Wings has done to frank that form with a couple of brilliant staying performances, that Eclair Surf is any amount of pounds well in. He's still got to get in the race, of course, Eclair Surf, but where do you stand on him?
Yeah, he's probably likely to get in at this stage, Sean. There's only 2 more, I think, to come out with news of Court Maid coming out today. Actually, look, the case is an obvious one. Of all the British ones, like, he does have a very progressive profile. He seems to have taken off since they stepped him up to marathon trips. He was very good in the classic chase, Warwick, which has worked out well in its own right. And then he went up to Newcastle and ran a very good race in the Eider. Win My Wings might have got to the front a bit soon and was maybe a little bit idle, but Eclair Surf picked up all the way to the line, and Shadat Forms obviously got a big boost the other day in the Scottish Grand National. So from a handicapping point of view, you'd fancy him. One small little worry you'd have is that he does have this tendency to just occasionally decide to headbutt a fence. And he can pay a price for it. I know you can get away with more in the Grand National than you used to be able to, but he's just one of those that seems to lose concentration occasionally, and you don't want to do that ideally, but he ticks every other box bar that, I think.
Yeah, that's probably fair enough, Jamie. Is that you made the point that maybe you can get away with a bit more now, but maybe not headbutting them.
No, I wouldn't be a big fan of headbutting one of those fences. There's some of them you could get away with headbutting them, but you turn the corner there. Valentine's now, I think. You just want to jump that one.
What about Minella Times, Jamie? Because like the reigning champion, we've seen nothing from him this year. Of course, a couple of poor performances. But what do you make? Has he got a chance of coming back and running well?
I can't see it. He got an absolutely desperate fall in Punchestown on his reappearance before Christmas, and obviously then pulled up behind Birchdale and Leopardstown. But I don't know. I like it'll be some training performance for Henry to get this horse back to Aintree and to perform on the back of what he's done so far this year. It'd be and especially going up in the weights as much as he has. I don't really give him any chance now this year.
No romance there for Jamie. It's in the history not to repeat itself. It's hard to see, isn't it, perhaps, for Minella at times. But it is the biggest betting race, not just in the calendar, but in the world, arguably, the biggest race in the world, arguably. Let's get a few words on it from our sponsors at BoyleSports.
The Grand National Meeting is a fantastic 3-day event at Aintree Racecourse in Liverpool, and BoyleSports have got you covered right across the 3 days. We will be paying 7 places on the iconic Grand National, which of course will happen at 5:15 on Saturday evening. Who will win it this year? Can Rachel Blackmore and Henry de Bromhead win back-to-back Grand Nationals with Minella Times? Can Annie second now for Ted Walsh? After a luckless run 12 months ago, can he put his name on the illustrious roll of honour? Or could it be Delta Work, who broke Tiger Roll's heart at the Cheltenham Festival? Longhouse Poet was a very decent winner of the Tiestes in Gorham Park for trainer Martin Brazel, who knows exactly what it takes to train a Grand National winner. If you're against favourites, we have you covered across the 3 days. BoyleSports will be offering your money back to the starting price favourite on all 21 races at Aintree this year, and there's some very short price favourites indeed, the likes of Pied Piper, John Bunn, Brave Man's Game, Fakir Dudari's, Epatante. You can go against these knowing that your bet will be safe if you finish second to the starting price favourite. And of course, we will have some great price boosts every single day from 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. But it's all about the Grand National. 7 places with Ireland's leading bookmaker. And for myself, my own fancy is Longhouse Poet. I think he's got the right profile coming into this year's renewal. It's going to be a cracking contest. Snow Leopardess for Charlie Longston has come in for plenty of support in the last 24 hours. She's vying for favouritism with Annie Second Now and of course Delta Work. It's going to be a brilliant race. Let's hope every jockey and every horse comes back safe and sound, and may the best one win.
Well, that'll help you out. A few extra offers there. Enhanced 7 places. This is a mobile offer, so that's if you're a British and Irish mobile customer only. 7 places there from BoyleSports, and that kicks in 3 o'clock on Thursday the 7th. So if you're watching us live here on Facebook or on YouTube or on the At The Races website, that kicks in from 3 o'clock tomorrow if you're on your mobile betting with the BoyleSports there. So check that out. If you are watching us, by the way, on Twitter or on YouTube or on Facebook or on YouTube, I should say. Feel free to give us your thoughts and your comments as well, including your Grand National fancies. We're going to get 4 from each of the boys in just a moment. Let's touch on 1 or 2 of the other big horses towards the front of the market with Jamie and with Kevin. Fiddler on the Roof we haven't mentioned. I had a chat, Jamie, with Joe Tizard the other day. He's pretty bullish actually about Fiddler on the Roof. He's got a nice profile, 8 years old, progressive, pretty high quality form coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he'll stay as well. Stowaway. I think this horse has to have a good chance. Second in the Old Hennessy and Newbury. So yeah, look at like Tizard's horses when they hit form, and sometimes they can really hit form around this time of the year, and especially at Aintree. So you'd have to give this horse a bit of a chance. If he takes to it, he's definitely classy enough for it. And yeah, look at he's definitely a horse that you could keep on side.
Yeah, he was quite bullish about both their horses, Kevin, Lost in Translation as well. But Fiddler on the Roof is very classy coming in and still has some upside to him. Fortescue got the better in there at Ascot on that clip. Was getting nearly a stone, of course, from him. Do you rate Fiddler on the Roof or maybe Fortescue on that performance?
Yeah, I don't mind either of them, Sean. I think Fiddler on the Roof has the right sort of profile. Look, he has gone up a little bit in the weights this year. If he was trained in Ireland, I suspect he might be campaigning a small bit differently. But he was arguably a little bit unlucky not to win the Ladbrokes Trophy. He just got messed about at the wrong stage. And look, his run was very good last time. Had a hard enough race, I thought, now on soft ground, but he's had plenty of time to get over it. And I'm sure, look, he'll be ridden by Brendan Powell, who'll be bidding to become the second Brendan Powell to win the Grand National. There can't be too many of those down through history.
Rhyme and reason back in the day for Brendan Powell Senior. We just heard Leon Blanche there mention Kevin Longhouse Poet, who's probably a little bit under the radar for some British viewers. He's not been missed in the market, of course, Longhouse Poet. He's towards the front of the market. What chance do you give him?
I give him a very good chance, Sean. He has been shortening up steadily there. He was 20-1 not so long ago. And sure, look, the case is there. You know, he's trained by a man who's been there and done it in the old Grand National. Martin Brassil, of course, number 6 Valverde. And I just like the way this fella has been campaigned. You know, he had some very eye-catching form in maiden chases last year. You know, he beat Run Wild Fred one day at Punchestown. And he's just been brought along steadily this year. You know, I think I heard an interview with Martin Brassil today or yesterday, and he said it kind of surprised him that he was able to win the Tiestes. You know, it sounds like he was very much bringing him along steadily and with a view to, you know, either an Aintree Grand National or an Irish Grand National. And he kind of surprised him and went and won the Tiestes. And you'd love the way he did it. You know, for a horse that doesn't have heaps of experience over fences, like he was very assured with his jumping, very neat. I thought he probably, he had a wide out spin there. Like, he was kind of 5 and 4 wide all the way around, and he was probably in front early enough, and he still won. You know, and he gave him a run over hurdles just to keep the thing ticking over in the meantime. And I think he's just the right type of profile. He's a horse that travels well. Jamie mentioned that earlier. I think that's important. Back at the old Grand National, I would have often found myself siding with these kind of really slow horses, ones that found 3 miles a little bit sharp for them, and, one that you'd hope would really relish a even stronger test of stamina. Whereas now, I'm kind of happy with a fella that can travel around comfortably at 3 miles and just, hope that they stay. Because as another thing that Jamie said, because the fences have changed, you get a lot more horses going out in the second circuit. And just if you're not able to travel, you can find yourself getting shuffled back at fairly vital stages. And I wouldn't have any worries about that fella in this front now. He's well able to travel and jump. And he'd be a fairly straightforward ride. And yeah, I'd be sweet enough on him now, Sean.
That's an interesting point, Jamie, that Kevin makes there about where you need to be in the race these days. And looking back at last year's renewal, I couldn't tell you, exactly where each of the first 5, but it feels like they were all pretty prominent, the horses that ended up at the business end. They pretty much throughout the whole race.
Yeah, I think it's. I just think it's very important to be able to travel, for a horse to be able to travel within himself, just to get out the gate, get a nice position, let it be 3rd or 4th, 5th or 6th, 8th or 10th, but just be comfortable where they're travelling and jumping. And I think that's key to this. I do believe you need to be in the first 10 or 12 travelling. I haven't got the stats to back that up, but that's what that'd be my ideal position from seeing the past 6 or 7 Grand Nationals.
Yeah, no, I think that feels right. Does it? Run Wild Fred, it was only a small field, wasn't it, in the National Hunt Chase, but he was up there. We haven't touched on him, Jamie. I know you've made a case for Delta Run, but Run Wild Fred, another for the Jigginstown team?
Yeah, he's a horse that kind of, is promising a lot. Look at he's been second in Irish National, second in the Test Days. He obviously won a Tri-Town, and then he was second in the National Hunt Chase. He's a very good horse. I can see him running a lovely race and finishing in the first 4 or 5. But I just think maybe a better handicapped, classier horse might come past him. I don't know what it is, but I think this horse will run well without winning.
Okay. Now, we've all been asked to come up with 4 horses for the Grand National. I don't know whether this is good or bad, but only one of my 4 has been mentioned so far. We'll come to mine in a minute. So maybe I'm thinking out of the box, or maybe I'm a long way wide of the mark. What about you, Jamie? Give us your 4. We'll put them up on the screen, I think, and you can tell us what you like and why. Your short list of 4.
Yeah, look, I just Delta work. I was just very impressed with him at Cheltenham. He had lost a little bit of spark, maybe you could say. He was running in those difficult Grade 1s there, very competitive races, and then he goes to Cheltenham, takes to the fences. First time there as well, like usually take a run around there. So I think he's back to himself, and it's a very, very winnable mark for a horse of his class. Obviously, Longhouse Poet, Kevin touched on him. I rode him one day in a Grade 1 hurdle at Christmas in Leopardstown, just behind Paul Nolan's horse, Gone For Me. But he's a very...
latest exhibition.
Latest exhibition. And, this horse has been brought along quite really, really well. I thought the Test Days was a really good performance. Got a lovely little pipe opener over hurdles the last day. And, he's a very sound jumper. And I think he's going to give Dara O'Keefe a hell of a ride around. Freewheeling Dylan, he's an Irish National winner, likes top of the ground, likes the top of the ground, and he's just a horse that could really, if he takes to it, which I think he will, he'll love being up there travelling and jumping away. He's a terrific jumper as well. And if it's genuine, nice ground, I can see him running a huge race. And just Augusta Gold, I don't know if she's going to run now, actually. I think she's on the borderline of running. So I'm not sure whether she's going to run. But I just thought she had a couple of good runs for Mags Mullins. And I just thought her last day in Down Royal behind Roy Mage was just a nice pipe opener for her. I think she'll take to it. We know she stays in previous races, and yeah, she's in off a good weight.
Yeah, well, she'll get in if they want to run Augusta Gold, that's for sure. So one to watch out for there. What about you, Kev? What's made your shortlist of 4?
Well, Longhouse Poet is up at the top of it. But I tell you, Boyce, between him and Enjoy Dalan, I had a real struggle now sorting out which would be 1 and 2. Because they're the 2 I particularly like. And I've spoken about Longhouse Poet, but Enjoy Dalan, trained by Kieran Murphy. And I just love this fella's profile. You know, it's not dissimilar to Longhouse Poet, 8-year-old, you know, ran a lovely race in the Irish Grand National last year, finished 3rd to Free Wheel and Dillon, and he's been trained with One Day in Mind since then. And I love the way Kieran's campaigned him this year. He gave him 1 run over hurdles. He ran a lovely race to be 3rd in the Paddy Power Chase. Got a bit messed about that day, and then had another spin over hurdles since. Like, it's all been about Aintree and getting him there. And he's in off an ideal sort of a weight. Look, he'll stay really well. I wouldn't have any worries on that front. I think he has the right jumping technique for the modern Grand National. Just the one thing that just very, very marginally veered me towards Longhouse Poet is that Enjoy Dalan wouldn't travel as well as Longhouse Poet. You know, even in the Irish National, which is over 3 mile 5, you know, he was very much off the bridle, kind of 4 out. And in the Paddy Power, you know, he was needing to be niggled along in the middle part of the race. So that's just a minor concern. You know, he'd need, I assume Conor Rower is going to ride him, and he'd need to be good on him now just to keep him in touch and get him in a good rhythm. But I think he has a lovely profile. And he's one I definitely had high up my list. And Mount Ida was the other one that we haven't spoke about yet. She's a very chancy one now, Boyce, but look, her price reflects that. She was very good in winning the Kimure. It was an absolute miracle performance, really. I'm sure many of the viewers will remember it. She traded 1,000 in running. You know, she was jumping out to her right and took an age to warm up. But she ultimately went and won like a very competitive handicap chase at her ease, you know, despite doing so much wrong. And she's come back this season and proven to be one of the best mares around. You know, she beat Scarlet and Dove and Ellie May before finishing behind the 2 of them at Cheltenham. And the main point with her is, Sean, look, she does jump right. And it's not ideal to be going left-handed around Aintree. But look, you're travelling in straight lines most of the time at Aintree. And she's just totally unexposed over staying trips, Sean. The only time she's gone further than 3 miles, you know, she bolted up in the Kimure and was you know, galloping, bursting out through the line. So I think the test of stamina will suit her really well. And if she just doesn't make too much of a problem for herself by jumping out to her right, she just could run well at a big price. And Snore Leopardess, we spoke about already. She's the rock solid one for sure.
Okay, so a few solid selections there and some interesting ones as well. Should we share mine? I didn't actually put them in a particular order. We haven't mentioned. Everyone says Farclas. I tend to say Farclas, but we haven't mentioned that. It's yet another Jigginstown horse we haven't seen for a while. I don't know whether that's by accident or design. Good 5th last year. He was only a baby, really, last year, a 7-year-old. Cloth Cap last year was the 11-2 favourite for this race, don't forget. He's a pound lower. He stopped rather quickly, didn't he, after the 4th last, but he did kind of peck on landing there, and I'm assuming that something went wrong with the old wind issues there. But Cloth Cap, 25 to 1 this time around. 2 for Gold. Comes with a lot of health warnings, 2 for Gold. But he is priced accordingly. He's a 40 to 1. In terms of who's most well in, he's the most well in. He's £5 well in. His mark goes up £5, 2 for Gold. And he's run brilliant races this year. He's been lightly campaigned. He's run brilliantly every single time. The trouble with him is he needs to go down early. He completely fluffed his lines on his previous visit to Aintree. I think it was in the top one, wasn't it? So that's a worry, but he's a big price. And Fiddler on the Roof we've talked about. I think he's a classy horse with the right kind of profile. And Joe Tizar kind of convinced me with him because he was very bullish about him. So those are my 4 against the field there, along with the other 4. So between us, I think we come up with 2 votes for Longhouse Poet, but otherwise all different horses. So hopefully one of us gets close at some point. in the race. BoyleSports will help you out, though, on that front. They're offering an enhanced place term, 7 places kicking in from 3 o'clock on Thursday the 7th. This is a mobile offer, don't forget. And check out BoyleSports.com each day for daily price boosts. They've got some other offers as well. We saw their second to the favourite offer and various other things. You need all the help you can get, so do check out all that's available for you there with BoyleSports. Now, talking of help, the At The Races team, as ever, have done a brilliant job. The Grand National website's been up and running for a while. You may be watching this show on it, but if you're not, get along to the At The Races website. Well worth checking out. All the race cards, all the runners and riders for all the declared races already up, of course, all the prices, all that kind of stuff. Stats and trends for every single race. Loads of other goodies as well. That's attherace.com/national. Do get stuck into that. Now, if you are watching us on Facebook or if you are watching us on YouTube, that's the other place you'd be, don't forget, you can leave a comment down below. So give us your fancies, your Grand National selections. Maybe you give us your first 4 in the Grand National. We have. Let's all be in it together. We're all
Don't encourage them, boys.
We're all going to make fools of ourselves. I will encourage them, Kevin Blake. I will indeed encourage them. That's what it's all about. Yeah, do feel free to get stuck in. Right, we've got stuck into the Grand National. That is not the only show in town. Loads of great racing over 3 days, of course, starting on Thursday. Let's gallop you through some of the Grade 1 action over the few days. We'll start with the SSS Super Alloys Manifesto Novices Chase. 2.5 is the trip for this, just shy of. Pick Dory and Warlord, joint favourites with BoyleSports, currently 5-2 each. And River 4, Gin on Lime. Do you remember she was involved in that bizarre finish? 9-2, 11-2 Miller's Bank. 20-1 bar the front of the market. Quite tight at the front of the market. BoyleSports struggling to split the front two, Kevin. Which way would you go? Or would you look beyond them?
I'd lean towards Warlord narrowly, Sean. Look, he's been banging away in very good novice chases all season. Edward Stone has got the better of him a few times, but we know how good he is. And on the balance of his form, I think he's the best horse in the race. But the main angle into him, I think, Boycey, is he's finally stepping up in trip. You know, he primarily operated over mid-range trips over hurdles, but they've decided to, up to now, keep him to 2 miles over fences. And I think this step up to 2.5 miles will suit him. It'll hopefully bring about a few pounds of improvement. And if it does, I thought he'd take a fair bit of whacking now.
Yep. He's got that Edward Stone form as well that he brings into the race. That's not the best Cheltenham form we'll see on Thursday. I'll come to that in due course. But Warlord for Kevin there. Another Tizard horse expected to go well. What about you, Jamie? I was reading your piece on the At The Races website, and you were making a bit of a case for Miller's Bank, I think.
Yeah, I just thought Miller's Bank, if you go back to last year in Aintree, Abacadabra's farm, you know, it's very, very solid. A little bit hit and miss on seated a couple of times this year, but it got a nice little confidence booster behind Paul Nicholls' horse the last day. Had a wind up in January, and obviously the better ground is going to suit it. So just if it comes back to a little bit of the form from Abacadabra's last year, I'd be kind of sweet enough on this.
Okay, so Miller's Bank, who's got that Aintree experience on his side as well. Before everyone gets very excited that Kevin Blake and Jamie Codd have both selected British horses in the opening Grade 1, we should remind ourselves that they are all British, bar one. Gin on Lime, the only Irish runner in there. But I tell you what, she's not out of it, is she, Kevin? I mean, presumably she'll bowl along and enjoy herself, and she'll take a bit of catching, potentially, with the way she gets off the boys.
She might have a bit of company up in the front end, though, Sean, which wouldn't be ideal for her. And look, she's been a brilliant mare for connections. She's been a great money spinner this season. Like bizarre race, obviously, at Cheltenham last time when the 2 runners and they both all but fell at the last, and she managed to find her feet, and Rachel managed to stay on. But we haven't seen her since. And look, while she's very likeable and everything else, I thought she might come up a shade short in class terms here.
OK, I'd give her more of a chance than that. But we will see. We will see. That's the Manifesto Novices Chase. The first, it's a real rat-a-tat-tat of Grade 1 action on day 1 at Aintree. Let's move on to the next Grade 1, which is the Juvenile, which is this year the Jewson Anniversary 4-year-old Juvenile Hurdle. And Pied Piper, odds-on favourite, 10-11, 15-8 Brazil, 15-2. Big gap after the front 2 in the market. Let's start with the front 2 in the market. Let's start Jamie, with Pied Piper, of course, in the triumph. He was bang there, but many people expected him to go and win from that kind of position. What did you make of the run?
Yeah, I was a fraction disappointed with the horse. I thought he ran really, really well, but I suppose I still thought he was going to be second, a good second. Look at the winner. The winner really, really bolted up. Vauban. So it's hard to say that he stay or not stay. I think the track will really suit him. I think the tighter ground will suit him, drier ground obviously, and he seems in good form since. So yeah, I think Pied Piper, he deserves to take his chance there anyway. Like he's likely enough raced this year as well, so he should take to it quite well. So I'd be happy enough with him. But I think Pádraig Roche's Brazil could just maybe, will there be enough pace in the race for him? He looked to really, really stay in the Fred Winter. If there's enough pace and to drag him into it, he could be on this horse still.
That's an interesting angle, isn't it? The pace angle for Brazil, Kevin, because he got up and broke so many hearts, didn't he? Getting the better of Gaelic Warrior there, who would have been a miserable result for bookmakers if he'd got his head in front that day. But Brazil or Pied Piper, what do you make of it?
I'm siding with Brazil. The Triumph and the Boodles were a little bit hard to evaluate in that they were both kind of steadily running, a bit messy. Pied Piper, I'm sure, would have preferred more pace in the Triumph, but in fairness, he arrived there with a chance, and he couldn't get past Phil Dore in the end. So I was a little bit disappointed with him there. Brazil, very few got into the Boodles. He was up in the front end, but he did get kind of half wiped out by the winner a couple of times. He got very badly hampered after the second, and then he got hampered again. I think it was at the second last. So I thought it was a fairly game effort now to stay as well as he did, and like you say, break the hearts of the Gaelic Warrior fan club. And look, and if Willie is right about Gaelic Warrior, history might show that giving away £8 to him and overcoming all the hamstrings and beating him was a fair effort. So in terms of the tactics, like my read of it, I'm hoping Brazil makes his own running. And maybe dictates, because Pied Piper, I'd say the more pace you put in front of him, the better he'll be. And Mark Walsh just might be able to, first half of the race, maybe go a bit steady and build from there, possibly. I only saw Inca Prince as possible company for him on the front end. So, look, tight race, but at the prices, I was veering towards Brazil.
OK, I agree with you, Kevin, that JP McManus might win this race, but not with that horse. I think we can make a case for Petit Tonnerre, and the worry I have, and then the misgiving I have, is this horse ran in a 3 or 4 runner handicap hurdle, which doesn't inspire confidence for his debut for John Joe Hill. But his French form is excellent. His French performances are really good, and his French performances, I would suggest, are probably several pounds better than Gaelic Warrior, for example, which will put him right on a par with the likes of Brazil, potentially, and he'd be a much bigger price. I'd give him a chance at a big price, but what do I know? Let's move on. Let's talk. Now, this is one of the races of the 3 days, isn't it, the Bowl? Look at the lineup for the Betway Bowl Chase that we've got this year. Clan des Obeaux in there, the champ, 7-2. Protectorate from the Gold Cup, 7-2. Conflated, the Irish Gold Cup winner, 4-1. Eldorado Allen, 11-2. Kemboy, winner 2 years ago, 11-2. 15-2. Royal Pagan, another one from the Gold Cup. It's a cracking lineup for this 3 Mile 1 Bowl on the Thursday. Right, let's start with you, Jamie Codd. It's a good race. What do you like?
Yeah, it is a good race. Protectorate, for me, carries the best form into it. It's just whether that, it's very, very hard to go win or to be placed in a Gold Cup like that and come back that quick. It's a competitive field. Conflated got a nasty enough fall at the second last in the Ryanair. So it could be hit and miss depending on how he comes out of that. Like he's Conflated can go either way. Like as we saw in Leopardstown, he was fantastic, jumped great, done everything brilliant. But on the back of a fall, how's his mindset going to be? So I think he'd be best watched. So Clan des Obeaux has it all to find again from Kempton and Ascot. I just think Protectorat is probably a very safe bet here.
Yep, Protectorat, the Gold Cup form, solid run for him at Cheltenham. What about you, Kevin? What catches your eye in this race?
Yeah, really, really interesting race, but one that I'm finding it hard to be bullish in, so I won't hold you up too much, Sean. I'd be afraid of Clondazobo in the first-time blinkers. They got a big response from him in first-time cheek pieces in this race last year, and he bolted up. And you can make excuses for him. You could say maybe he was put into the teeth of an overly strong gallop in the King George and paid for it late. And Paul's horses were running below form at the time he ran at Newbury last time. So if you want to find excuses for him, you can find them. But normally when you go reaching for too many excuses, it's because you're struggling. So I'd be a little bit afraid of him in blinkers, but Boy is the one I sided with. He was brilliant in this race, beating Clondazobo a few years ago. They kept him away from Cheltenham this year. He's coming here fresh. His form, finishing right up the tail of Galvin and a Plutard, obviously reads very well. And if Willie can get him back to that, I thought he'd be very tough to beat.
I think you're right. It's a tough race to be really bullish about, isn't it? Because you can make a case for so many horses. Of those horses, though, the one that stood out for me is Eldorado Allen, actually. I thought that Cheltenham run was outstanding behind Alaho, and I was surprised how positive they were with him, because in the Arkle against Shishkin, he'd come from a mile back 2 years ago and sort of stayed on into second and grabbed second. I thought they might try the same against Alaho, but not a bit of it. He was closer to Alaho than any other horse in the race. He paid the price in the end, not surprisingly. But when we had Joe Tizard on the other day, I asked him about this horse, and I said, why? I was a bit surprised how positive you were. He said, we weren't there to mess about. We went to have a proper go. And I think he's a serious horse, Eldorado. And we'll see how he runs on Thursday. But for me, at the prices, I think that's the Cheltenham run. I'd take that run over the Protectorate run in the Gold Cup myself. And that trip, I think, is probably just about right for him, 3 miles on a flattish track at the moment. So Eldorado Allen for me. Let's we'll squeeze in one more on the Thursday, haven't we? The Aintree Hurdle. And yet another Grade 1 on a brilliant day. And again, we've got championship form here, the second and the third from the Champion Hurdle. Epatante and Zanna here reoppose. We've got Brewing Up a Storm. Let's start with the Champion Hurdle form, Kevin. A, is that the right place to start? And B, which of the two would you prefer?
Oh, I think so, Sean. It's definitely the key piece of form. And this is going to be a super race because it's going to be a big opinion race. We have a clash between these two from a few weeks ago to look at, compare directly, and see how it will translate to this different course and distance. And I'd be pretty bullish on Zanna here now, reversing the Cheltenham form. I think he's got a real good chance of doing it. I've watched back that Champion Hurdle multiple times there in the last few days, and I'm very adamant that if they turned up in the same form, that Zanna here would finish in front of her. Epatante just got a lovely ground saving, no pressure ride from Aidan Coleman. She would have finished even closer if she jumped the last, but she's a free going mare, and I thought Aidan really maximised her on the day, whereas Zanna here, Jack was being very tactical. He was kind of watching Honeysuckle as much as he was worrying about his own race, and he ended up kind of 3 wide, no cover the whole way, trying to keep her out and keep her off his outside. And to me, all season he's been shaping as though a longer trip such as this will suit, whereas Epatante has always been a free goer that you never would have had as a 2.5 miler. So stepping up to this trip now, reopposing, I think Jack will be able to ride a different type of race here. He'll be up on the front end, I'd imagine, doing his own thing, whereas Aidan Coleman will be really, really concentrating on trying to get Epatante to relax over this longer trip. And I think he could comprehensively reverse this form, Sean, to be honest, if he turns up in the same nick as he did at Cheltenham.
That's interesting. Trip, a big question mark, obviously, Jamie, for Epatante. Not a question mark for Brewing Up a Storm, who I think you quite like, don't you?
Yeah, I just think he's coming in a fresh horse. He's we know he'll stay. I'm not sure Zanna here. We've kind of been on about him at home, saying that he will stay. He will stay further. So, I think Zanna here is probably the trip and all will suit him and that. But I just think that Ollie's horse, Brewing Up a Storm, could just step up to it here. He had a good run. He fell at the last in Cheltenham the day Stormy Island won, and I think if things went well, this horse could just run a huge race.
Yeah, interesting one. Former Elliott man, of course, Ollie Murphy. Talking of Gordon Elliott, you're saying Zanaher, the step up may well suit him, Jamie. And Gordon Elliott was quoted the other day saying not too worried about lots of horses running and not getting many winners since Cheltenham for it's 2 or 3 weeks now, isn't it? I suppose a lower strike rate than we'd expect from Gordon. But he said that only a handful of those would have been really well fans. What do you make of it? Would it be any concern coming into Aintree, the form of the yard, or not?
It's hard to know. Like I was in there this morning, we were chatting about it. He's a lot of placed horses, an awful amount of placed horses. So is it just that's what's happening, that the horses are just knocking on the door but they're not getting in, and that will turn? I think that's just a case of what it is. They're just maybe, I don't know, can you say they're not 100%? They're not pulling up, or they're not they're not sick or anything like that. They're just finishing second and third, and so look, at when they do click in and they will start to win. It's just I think it's just the way it is at the minute.
Okay, we will see and see how things. While we've got Thursday on our minds, then we must touch on the Fox Hunters, which you're not riding in this year, I don't think. But what catches your eye in the Fox Hunters this year?
I thought Samuel Cohn on Jet. I thought he jumped out last year in the National, and he got a terrific ride for a kind of a circuit and a bit. So you'd imagine if he could get that same ride off him for the one circuit, it would look like he'd be hard to beat. There's no real Irish runners this year, and the Bulger down the bottom would stand up and fight. He looks, if he takes to the fences, he looks like he could be placed possibly. Porlock Bay would be the interesting one for me. Beat Billaway in the Fox Hunters at Cheltenham last year, and if he takes to the place, he could be a very interesting runner.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a strong sort of British Fox Hunter lineup, Kevin, as Jamie says there. Anything catch your eye in that, or have you heard anything about the Mayor's Bumper before we leave Thursday?
I won't trouble you with the Mayor's Bumper, but I'd like Jet put on a bit of a show, in fairness to him, in the Grand National last year. Much shorter trip here, you'd assume, would suit him. So he was an obvious starting point. And the one Jamie briefly mentioned there, Stand Up and Fight, he's got bits and pieces of form that would be pretty high up the 100 chasing ranks. And I think this race might just suit him, and he's a big price. So Anya O'Connor takes the ride. So if you wanted one at the front end, it'd be Jet. If you wanted one at a bigger price, Stand Up and Fight.
We're covered in that respect. He was spectacular, wasn't he, for a long way in the National last year, Jet. So we'll see how he gets on in the Fox Hunters. That's enough for Thursday. What do you like on Thursday? Let us know in the comments below. If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, the comments are open below. Of course, you can always drop us a tweet on Twitter as well, on the At The Races account as well. Happy to hear from you on that front as well. Who's your top tip for Thursday? I don't know if we're going to go back and wrap up on that. So I'm going before we go on to Friday, let's put that to the boys. Best bet on Thursday. I'm going off piste here, off script. But if you had to, we've talked about all the Grade 1s, but if you had to choose one, Kevin, what would it be on Thursday?
Zanaher would be the nap for sure.
Okay, Zanaher for Kevin. What about you, Jamie? If I press you,
I like Willie's Mare in the Bumper.
Willie's in the Bumper.
Willie's in the Bumper.
Yeah.
How many has he got in there? I haven't even looked.
Just one. Patrick getting down to 11 stone. And yeah, I think she's got a good chance. I thought her run in Leopardstown was really good, and I think Patrick doing 11 stone is enough for me.
Excellent. It's often the punchline to a Cheltenham Festival joke, isn't it? Willie's in the Bumper. But there literally is the one Willie's in the Bumper, and Patrick doing the weight as well. Good stuff. Thanks, Jamie, for that. You were the right man to come to for the Mayor's Bumper. Let's turn our attention to Friday and the racing on Friday. We'll start again with the Grade 1s, of course. That's going to be our focus. We've got a good idea, of course, of what's running, including John Bomb, which was some debate about, wasn't there? Will he or won't he? Well, it looks like he will. Even money favourite for the Betway top Novices Hurdle, over 2.5 miles, a furlong. El Fabiolo 3-1, 5-1 First Street. Surprise package 10, 12-1 and bigger bar those. Kick us off, Jamie, with John Bond, first of all. Was his bubble burst a little bit at Cheltenham, or did he just run valiantly against an absolute monster in Constitution Hill?
Yeah, I don't think the bubble was burst at all. I thought he ran a fantastic race. I think Constitution Hill could just be an absolute superstar. To win a Supreme by that length, great time, course record, all that. I thought John Bon ran a hell of a race. He jumped out there, took on Willie's, 3/4 way down the back in Cheltenham and really went for it. So I don't think the bubble was burst at all. I think he's a very classy horse. I think the better ground will suit him in Aintree, flat track. I think there's a lot to like.
He's the one to beat still for this race?
Yeah, I think so. Look at Willie. Willie goes to Tramore and wins a maiden hurdle, and then on his next run he rocks on to a Grade 1 in Aintree. It's typical Willie. He's a complete unknown. I think John Bon's form is there. If he turns up and performs to that same level, I think he does win.
Okay. John Bon, the one to beat. El Fabiolo, he is a dark horse, isn't he, really, Kevin? We don't know an awful lot about him. French import, one sort of win for Willie Mullins. What have you made of this race?
With El Fabiolo, I was kind of mentioning him there all through January and February as like a potential sneaky one for the Supreme. Because like Willie talks about this horse in very high terms. Like he won at Tramore, but like Willie's put together a bit of a fair list of horses that have won at Tramore, like your Penn Hills and your Lorenas and your San Watt, horses like that. So it's no, people might think that the lesser lights get sent to Tramore. It's not always the case, but the thing is, Sean, he's gone short now. There was loads of support for him there in the last few days. I think he was as big as 10-1 at one stage, and he's just short enough now. And I've found myself kind of going fishy there in the bigger prices, and I like this Fina Ardanza for Gordon, like completely under the radar. And the more I looked at him, the more I liked him. He's very lightly raced. He won a bumper for Stuart Crawford and then changed hands and joined Gordon and won a maiden hurdle, pretty workmanlike, travelled great, but workmanlike in the end. Disappeared for the winter. Don't know if that was by design or due to a setback, but came back there the weekend before Cheltenham in a Grade 3 at Naas and didn't seem particularly fancied now, but geez, ran a lovely race. Dropped in by Davy Russell, crept in up the inner, kind of squeezed into a gap that wasn't really there, got into a challenging position, and the eventual winner, Highland Charge, kind of leaned on him the whole way down the straight, and I just thought it was a mighty run. He was only beaten ahead for a second run over hurdles. He'll surely tighten up from that run, and I think Davy will have learned. He rode in the last 2 days, and I think he learned something from the first day, and I think he would have learned again the last day. Like, I think he'll drop him in, ride him very quiet. I think he's very pacey, and he'll deliver him as late as he dares, I suspect. And I could certainly see him running into the frame, and you never know. Like, he's lightly raced, he's improving. He might just cause a bit of an upset at a big price.
He was about 16-1 with BoyleSports, I think, Vino Ardanza. Has he snuck in under the radar, Vino Ardanza, do you think, Jamie? He hasn't had a chance to show us what the likes of John Bon has had a chance to show us, to be fair.
Yeah, look, I think Kevin has brought him up there at a big price. I think the way he'll be ridden, I think he's a great chance of being in the money. Just whether he's quite good enough to actually win is another thing. But look, at stranger things have happened. He's an improving horse. I suppose the big thing about this horse, he came from Crawford's, and he has improved physically. Is from what I've seen at home, he seems to be getting stronger. Every time I see him, I say, God, he's got way stronger across his back. So, yeah, this horse definitely could run well at a big price.
Okay, so that's another endorsement potentially for one of the big prize, Vino Ardanza, in a tough race. Talking of tough races, though, we've got the Betway Mileway Novices Chase, 3 miles and 1, 5-3 on the Friday. Only a small field, but what a field it is. Brave Man's Game, L'Homme Presse, Ahoy Signor. We hope to see all three of them at Cheltenham in the 3 miler. Of course, Brave Man's Game swerved that. There's a possibility L'Homme Presse will swerve this. I heard one of the owners quoted today saying we want to see some rain for L'Homme Presse. Hopefully they get it. Hopefully we get this clash between Brave Man's Game and L'Homme Presse and Ahoy Signor. There's the rematch, Kevin. Mustn't forget Fury Road. We'll come back to him in a minute. But what a race this will be if we get the big three in particular. Which way are you leaning, Kevin?
Yeah, fabulous race, Sean. Look, we don't mind small fields when the big guns turn up and they're all declared to run here. It's a tough one. Look, hard to have a real bullish opinion. Like, I've been very sweet on Brave Man's Game the whole way along. Like he would have made my selection at Cheltenham until he came out due to the rain. Like a fabulous jumper of a fence, like the best jumper we've seen all season in novice chases for me. Comes here fresh because he didn't run at Cheltenham, and I'd have to favour him if you made me have a selection and have a bet. It'd be Brave Man's Game, but one thing I would say, Sean, look, you don't need to bet to enjoy a race like this, but I don't think Fury Road will perform. I wouldn't be surprised if he outperforms his outsider status here, because his, bloodless defeat of Run Wild Fred there 2 starts back, wouldn't be far off the best form we have on show here. Like that, he was really impressive. Like, he's a bit of a quirk bag now, and he doesn't always turn up, as we saw in his recent start, his latest one, I should say. But I think Aintree will suit him. Nice ground will certainly suit him, and it just wouldn't be a shock now if it'd be a very Fury Road thing to do now if he popped up and upset the apple cart. But he could be a very big price. He's going to be a double-figure price in a four-runner field, so I wouldn't like to forget about him.
That's exactly the note I've got for him. Is he the forgotten horse, question mark? He's no slouch. On his better form, Jamie, he's a player.
What did Kevin call him?
A quirk bag.
A quirk bag is a new one.
That's full of quirks.
That's an interesting one from Kevin. Quirk bag. I'll keep that in the locker. I don't know. I'd be cagey enough on Fury Road. I think ground and all will help him, but I think the 3 other novices in this are a step above. I think the English have stronger novices, and I'm delighted to see Lahan Press. I hope we do get a small drop of rain. Not enough for Brave Man's Game to pull out, but just enough for this horse to run. So, I'm really looking forward. I've been a massive fan of Brave Man's Game since he's gone chasing, and I'm not going to go away from him now. I think he's a fantastic jumper, as Kevin said, and I think this horse is just made for this race now. He'll just jump out there and set a nice gallop, and away he'll go. Ahoy Senior ran very well in Cheltenham, only for the mistake at the third last. He definitely, it was a really, really good run to stay going, to finish second behind Lahan Press there. So it's a cracking race, but I think I'm really looking forward to seeing Brave Man's Game.
Brave Man's Game. Slight error from Ahoy Senior at Cheltenham. That is a bit of his Achilles heel over fences, isn't it, Ahoy Senior? We have to remember he beat Brave Man's Game at Aintree over hurdles, of course, didn't he, as a novice over this trip. So maybe Liverpool is the key to Ahoy Senior. I love L'Empresse. I love Brave Man's Game, really love Brave Man's Game as the boys do, but I really, really have been impressed with L'Empresse, particularly last time at the festival. Fantastic race to look forward to on the Friday. What else have we got on the Friday? The Marsh Chase, the 2.5 miler. Well, let's have a look at the market first. 13-8, Fakir Doudari. 13-8. That was one that Leon Blanche from BoyleSports mentioned. With their if you finish second to the favourite, that will be a short favourite if you want to take it on. 13-8. 6-1, Funambule Civilar. 8-1, So Royal. All Mankind and Captain Guinness and Mr. Fisher and San Calvados all on 10-1, 12-1. But those. So an open look beyond the favourite, which is Fakir Doudari. Let's start with you, Kevin Blake, because this horse is trained by Joseph O'Brien, of course. You were quite lukewarm about him before he ran at Ascot. I seem to remember. Tell me if I'm wrong. And, of course, he went and won. So how do you feel about him going into Liverpool?
Well, I was lukewarm about him before Ascot, Sean, and I tell you, I was fairly lukewarm on him up until about 4 out, because for me, just my personal opinion, I don't think he was at his best at Ascot. To me, it took him an age to get into a rhythm jumping wise. I was very concerned up until well past halfway, and he started to jump a bit better. Then he jumped his way into the race and ultimately got the job done. Workman-like enough now. He was only beaten 2 for gold. No disrespect. He's going to run in the Grand National and may well run well, but he's not a tip-top Grade 1 horse really. and Fakir Dudery kind of needed all the strength, all the run in to get by him. So look, I'd like to see better from him on Friday. Look, it's a great chance for him to win another Grade 1 on paper. I think the decision to skip Cheltenham has been justified, as much as it can be pre-race. It looks very winnable. There's plenty in here that their best form is at 2 miles rather than 2.5. He's a strong stayer at the trip. There looks to be good pace there if he wants to get a lead. I'd love to see him go and win, and I think he probably can, but I think the market might be overreacting a small bit. It was a bit more impressed with Ascot than I was. But like I say, I think he's better than that on his best day. And if he can improve on what he did there, sure, look, he'll hopefully go and win.
Okay, well, I'm maybe tepid rather than lukewarm, maybe a little bit warmer. I don't know what's warmer, lukewarm or tepid, but not red hot, Kevin, on Fakir Dudery's chances. To be fair, though, Jamie, every time I look at this race, I think, all mankind, forgot all about him because we haven't seen him run a good race for a while. Oh, Captain Guinness, he could come back and run well. What catches your eye in this race? What did you make of it?
I think it's Fakir's race to lose. I think there's too many. There's something not right with all the rest of them. You're trying to go back in their form to say, yeah, you give him a chance, but Fakir, he just has the form. He's only a 7-year-old. It's not like he's a 9 or 10-year-old. He's still a young horse, and I think he has to win here.
Okay, there you go, Kevin. You have to win. It's yours to lose. Don't throw it away. Let's have a word on the Topham as well, because we get to see the national fences, of course, on the Friday over 2 miles 5 and a bit. Mr. Coffee heading. It's a very, very open market indeed. Obviously, Royal Rendezvous in there, the top weight for Willie Mullins. Paul Townend penciled in for him, I think. Senior Citizen, declared for him. 5-Star Getaway, Notebook, Killer Clown, Fantastic Lady. All of these horses on similar prices. Senior Citizen is one he's got the Aintree form, hasn't he? Kevin, coming into this, loves this course and loves these fences. What, if anything, jumps off the page for you in the Topham?
I've gone with Palmer's Hill for John Joe Senior and Junior. He's a horse that I've liked for a long time, Sean. He's clearly very difficult to train. We haven't seen loads of him. Jamie Codd won a point on him once upon a time back in the good old days about 5 years ago. But when he has got to the track, he's been very good. Loved his 2 wins over fences earlier this season. Tom Scudamore kind of codded him and Molly coddled him and probably won with a lot more in hand than the winning margin suggested, Weatherby. And then he went to Ascot and jumping the last, it looked like he had a fight on his hands, and he ended up winning by 10 lengths. Very, very strong up the finish. And his hurdle form, the way he's been shaping over fences, it all suggests that this longer trip will suit him well. His jumping technique, I think, will translate well to these fences. You have to forgive an abysmal run last time when he was pulled up, but I'm happy to put my faith in John Joe. He's a horse that has a good record when fresh. I don't think he'd be running him in this particular race unless he was very happy with him, on his return from whatever 10 or 11 weeks off. So a bit of market support for him would be encouraging, but even with or without, I'll take my chance with Palmer's Hill.
Okay, interesting one. Palmer's Hill there for John Joe and John Joe. 16-1 currently with BoyleSports. 6 places I see with BoyleSports at the moment, so that's an alternative for you there for Kevin at a nice price, 16-1 Palmer's Hill. Wide open market here, Jamie. What else catches your eye in this one, Jamie?
I like the look of Sizing Potsy. I think he's a horse that, he's been very solid this year. And I just think he's a horse that could take to the fences and take them quite well. Second to Mellon, beat Master McShee, who was a Grade 1 winner at Limerick this year. So the last day in Navan. So I think, 11.6 is not a bad weight. And yeah, I think Puppy will have a great spin on him. Okay,
a couple of shots there, both 16-1 shots. Go on.
Yeah, maybe just a horse down the bottom, Bazio. I think he could give Ted Walsh or Adam Wedges riding him, but I think he could give Ted a nice warm up for the national here with Bazio. He's just a horse. He's a good jumper. I think he'll run well to a point. Whether he's good enough to win is another thing, but he might give punters a good run for their money.
Okay, number 25 on the race card currently, Bazio there for Ted Walsh, Adam Wedge. That's about an 18-1 shot with BoyleSports currently, that one. Let's squeeze in the last race that we want to touch on from Friday, which is the final Grade 1 on that day, the Sefton Novices Hurdle. And we touched on Hoy-Senior won this last year, Champ won it the year before. I'm not sure... Well, on what we've seen so far, we've got a horse quite at that level. But we've got Banbridge in here, Kevin, for Joseph O'Brien, and he sets the standard according to the market. What do you make of his chance?
Yeah, I think he has a big chance, Sean. Like the view was to give him a couple of entries here in the Grade 1s at Aintree. Punchestown would have been the obvious alternative. And, you know you're going to bump heads with Willie there. And I think this race has caught up a nice bit now. Like, for him to come from winning a Martin Pipe to be clear fav for this, it kind of tells you a bit about the depth and quality. So it looks a super chance for him. The stamina would be the question mark that many will have next to him, I suppose. But I wouldn't be overly worried myself. Like, he was winning over 2 mile 5 like last summer. Like, there's plenty of stamina on his page. Like, he's out of a half sister to Major Malarkey, who stayed for absolutely forever. And I like. If you watch the Martin Pipe back, he was really at his strongest over the top of the line. Like, so I don't think stamina for 3 miles around this track is going to hold him back. And he's a lovely straightforward ride. Mark McDonough gave him a super ride last time. JJ Slevin takes over now, and he'll be a lovely straightforward ride, Sean. He'll be up in the van there, and he'll either be good enough or he won't. But Joseph's been very happy with him since Cheltenham, and this is a super opportunity to go and win a Grade 1, hopefully.
I think opportunity is right, isn't it, Jamie? Winning the Martin Pipe there off 137, but there's nothing to be scared of in this lineup that I can see for Banbridge. What do you make of the race? Yeah,
I think the same. I think it's made for Banbridge to get a Grade 1. It looks a little bit ordinary on paper, so it is probably his to lose if he's good enough to step up. The race is there for the taking. Like all the rest of them, there something is going to have to be placed, but it's hard to figure out form really to say what it's going to be. I suppose one that potentially could be okay is a bold endeavour of Laura Morgan's. Came with a nice reputation from Ireland, won a point for Warren Ewing, and has been campaigned kind of up the north of England. Granted, the last run was just okay, but I think something has to step up and be placed here, and I think this horse could be him.
Okay, one to consider as a nice big price alternative in that race. If you've got fancies for the Friday, let us know in the comments down below. If you're talking to us on YouTube there or watching on Facebook or as well, comments open on both of those platforms just now, so you can join in the conversation with your fellow viewers there and give us your views. Best bet of the day for Friday, I wonder. I'm going to say L'Empresse for me, which means I'm probably butting heads with both of you with Brave Man's Game. Best bet of the Friday for you, Kevin?
I fancy a few big prices now, but in terms of the best bet, I'll go with Banbridge.
Banbridge gets the vote. He's given us a few at big prices, he certainly has. You've given us a few at prices as well, Jamie, but banker for the Friday?
I don't know if she's a banker, but I think Speech Bubble in the first will run big race. She was second behind Love Envoy. She's been freshened up for this, missed Cheltenham, and we saw what Love Envoy done at Cheltenham, so I think she'll run a huge race in the handicap hurdle, the Grade 3, the first race.
Everyone is now reaching for their biros. I certainly am. Speech Bubble in the first. We didn't even talk about the first, the opening handicap hurdle that kicks off the card. Watch out for Speech Bubble in that, says Jamie. Let's move on to Grand National Day itself, to the Saturday. And where should we start there? We have got the Mersey Novices Hurdle. Now, it gets a little bit trickier now, fellas, because we don't have the decks and what have you. Are we likely to see three-stripe life in this, do we think, Jamie?
I'm actually not sure. I was there this morning and he rode out. He could be possibly getting on the lorry today. I wasn't 100% sure. But if he did turn up, I thought his run at Cheltenham was really, really good behind Sir Gerhard. Sir Gerhard looks like he could be a monster. I was afraid Sir Gerhard wouldn't stay. but he rectified that. He put me back in my place. You know, he's just a very, very good horse, and Three Stripe Life is probably going to be a standout for this race.
Yeah, he was a kind of banker to a few each-way multiples for me, Three Stripe Life. Not all the other legs ran as well, Kevin, but he did his bit. So he'd probably do for me if he turns up. What about you?
He's very solid, Sean, but I do like North Lodge as a horse. I've liked him from day one, really. Like, he's still quite lightly raced. I fancied him last time in a Grade 2 at Kelso, and he looked like he had the job done, and he just got nutted on the line by Nell's son. You know, he was carrying a penalty that day. I thought it was a fair effort now, and he seems to be stepping up every time we see him. Getting back to this mid-range trip, I'd say will suit him as well. So I'd say North Lodge, if he's declared, would be quite interesting to me.
OK, and well, they've already pencilled in Adrian Heskin, as you'd expect, who rides for the McNeils, of course. That's the Ascaria 10 colours, North Lodge, that one trained by Alan King, and could run a big race, as Kevin there, in the opening Mersey, not the opening, the first Grade 1, the Mersey Novices Hurdle. We've got the Maghull Novices Chase, for which Edwardstone will, of course, be an overwhelming favourite, the Arkle winner 4-7. Assuming he turns up all well, do we take him on, Jamie, or do we enjoy another romp?
Yeah, I took him on in Cheltenham and I got my comeuppance, so I'm gonna stay a defeated man. I think I was very impressed with him in Cheltenham. He was really, really good, jumped well. It's very hard to see past him.
It's easy to say with the benefit of hindsight, Kevin, and I know you didn't. I know that you were with Edwardstone in the Arkle and you didn't think the Irish Challenge was strong enough to beat him. But everyone was quite cool on Edwardstone in all the build-up to the festival. He's done absolutely everything right all year.
He's been brilliant, you know, bar the mishap the first day when he got brought down. Like, he's just a lovely, neat, efficient jumper. You know, he travels, he stays well. He's not necessarily the flashiest horse you'd ever come across in your life, but he's just a very good novice chaser. And, like, he has Third Time Lucky well covered. When they met there at Warwick, like, I thought the race went beautifully for Third Time Lucky, and Edwardstone was still able to kick him out of the way. I suppose that the potential joker in the pack is Gentleman to Me, who is, I suppose, untested at the highest level thus far, but has been impressive at a lower level. Look, to me, Sean, it'd be a surprise if he's good enough to beat Edwardstone at this stage. I suppose it was a slight concern for some going into Cheltenham that Edwardstone has been quite busy this season. This will be his 7th run of the campaign, but he didn't look in any way diminished at Cheltenham now. So we'll trust in Alan King to freshen up again to go back to war one more time and get another Grade 1 in the bag.
Yeah. It's nice to see them run, though, isn't it? Horses
Absolutely.
Like that. It's a great advert for doing it as well. So let's hope that continues. Right, maybe we can get more stuck into the Liverpool Hurdle, the Stayers Hurdle, over the 3 mile, 149 yards to be exact. And again, I suppose with hindsight, Jamie, Flooring Porter, people were a bit keen to take him on, weren't they, in the Stayers at Cheltenham? And he sort of proved us all wrong again as well.
Well, I'm actually going to... No, I stuck my chest out for Flooring Porter in Cheltenham, so
good on you.
I'll take that one. No, I thought he was the best horse in the race. If he got to the start in Cheltenham, without getting too excited, which he did, I thought he's the best staying horse in Ireland or England at the minute. Won't have it as easy around Aintree. It's a sharper, tighter type of track. What I'd say about Aintree is it's harder to get a blow into a horse, to take a blow. You can't give him a breather as such, because you're always going to have someone taking you on a little bit more. So that'd be my only slight concern. But I think the same. I think if Danny Mullins can ride a race on him that he did in Cheltenham, and that, I think he's going to be very, very hard to beat.
It was a bit of a masterpiece of a ride, wasn't it? Danny Mullins gave Flooring Porter at Cheltenham. It was
brilliant. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. I thought it went, a little bit under the radar. I thought it was a hell of a ride. It was probably the best ride I've seen in Cheltenham in a while now, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I think some would agree with you. And it did get commented on, but yeah, sometimes these things get lost, don't they, in everything else that is going on. But he controlled that race and controlled the pace of it and did everything he wanted to do in terms of where he wanted to put the pressure on and where he wanted to get a breather and all the rest of it. However, he won the Stayers at Cheltenham and then was pulled up at Punchestown last year. So is there still a fragility or an Achilles heel that can be exploited? What do you think, Kevin?
There probably is, but you probably don't see it until he goes right-handed. Like that was the main issue with Punchestown. Like he's a hard, he is. Now we give him plenty of stick and say he's very quirky. I don't know if he's quite as quirky as he was, but he definitely has a bit of a thing about going to his left. And when they tried him right-handed, it was just disastrous, really, at Punchestown, which is why they're coming here instead. And look, I'd find it hard to be bullish. Look, clearly he's the one to beat on Cheltenham form, but like all his maiden rivals were only up his tail at Cheltenham. Time Hill, Champ, the Champ was 4 lengths behind him. Time Hill was 2 3/4, and Flooring Porter, that really was his day. Like he got a beautiful ride. It was very much run to suit him. And the thing about being a front runner at the highest level of this sport is you can fool people once and get away with it once, but they might forget about you if you get beat a couple of times. But it'll be at the forefront of everyone's mind. Do not let this horse have it his own way in front again. So that might just make things a little bit more difficult for him. What's going to win? I don't have a clue, Sean. I didn't have a clue I was going to win at Cheltenham, so I'm not going to pretend I know it this time, because these staying hurdlers, they're a funny old bunch, a bunch of quirk bags, as Jamie Codd might say. So I find it difficult to ever be too bullish about them.
Very unkind, very unkind. One stepping up in trip, the Devil's Coachman. Do we give him any kind of chance, Kevin? He's a younger, less exposed horse stepping into this division.
He's in good company with a name like that, isn't he? Yeah, look, he is. He's one of the unknowns, isn't he? He wouldn't have struck me now as a horse that would lay into these tip-toppers at this stage. But sure, look, he's only had the 6 runs over Hurdle, so you couldn't. It'd be a bit harsh to put a ceiling on him at the minute, but we'll probably have a much better idea of where his ceiling is after this. Would I back him here against these lads? Probably not.
Okay, fair enough. Right, word on the bumper. We'll come to you, Jamie, because this is your territory. You've got your ear to the ground. What do we like in the bumper?
I'm not really sure what's running, to be honest. I haven't... I didn't really look at this one, to be honest, Boyce.
Well, that tells its own story, because there isn't a horse that flies straight off your tongue as soon as I said the bumper. No, I didn't look at it and go, there was something there. I suppose you'd love to see declarations to know exactly what's going to run, and then you'd have a better idea. But there was definitely nothing jumping off. I suppose, look, it's like anything here, depending on what Willie is going to run. But other than that, now I didn't have much of an opinion on it. Yes, well, he's got a few entered, I think, but nobody's even thrown up a market as far as I can see on this, Kevin. So we're probably a bit in the dark still until we know a bit more.
Absolutely no. I've got nothing to add either.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. Before we go back to the Grand National, your best bet outside of the Grand National on the Saturday. I know it's difficult because we don't necessarily know what's running, but is there anything, or is that unfair because we don't have the declarations? Probably is, Kevin, isn't it? Or have you got something for us on the Saturday?
Life isn't fair, Boyce. We better give you one. Hold on, let me recap here. And it'll probably be North Lodge in the Mersey would be the one I'd give you. North
Lodge in the Mersey in the Ascaria 10 colours. That's fair enough. What about you, Jamie? Anything that we could pin you down to?
No, I'm a big fan of Flooring Porter, and I'd like to see him win again. I thought the connections in Cheltenham were fantastic, and I'd love to see them hit Aintree and have the same result. I think Liverpool would love them to hit Liverpool as well. It would be a match made in heaven. I think the Flooring Porter team and Liverpool in a big celebration. Yeah, there'll be a few quirk bags there that night, I'd say. Jamie Codd puffing his chest out again and going in again on Flooring Porter, which is fair enough. Let's recap our 4 against the field in the Grand National. This was Jamie Codd's quartet for you. Delta Work, very keen on Longhouse Poet, and Great Minds Thinking Alike on that front. Augusta Gold, one at a big price. It says Augusta there. Is it Augusta Gold? Is that how we spell it? Yeah, that's it, yeah. Augusta Gold. Does sound a bit like Augusta, where the golf is taking place this weekend as well. So maybe if you get the double up,
Get the Masters and Augusta Gold winning the National. You can retire, probably. Freewheeling.
Does Jamie Codd have a tip for the Masters?
That's a good question.
Tiger all the way, Kevin.
Tiger. Well, one Tiger's been retired, the other one keeps coming back. Freewheeling Dylan, another one at a big price for Jamie there. What about Kevin Blake's quartet? Let's remind you of what Kevin's gone for and why. Another vote for Longhouse Poet, but it was a bit of a dead heat between Longhouse Poet and Joy Dallin. They won't, in terms of splitting that pair. Mount Ida at a big price, and Snow Leopardess, she ticks all the boxes, doesn't she? Snow Leopardess. And my quartet against the field. And when I emailed these in, I didn't put them in any particular order, to be fair. Cloth Cap was my first pick when I was first looking at the National recently at 25 to 1. 2 for Gold picks himself just because of what the handicap has done, but he does come with a few quirks. Maybe wait until he's lined up. Fiddler on the Roof kind of picks of himself as well, I think, on what he's done in his career so far, and there could be still some upside. And Farclar I like as well, having run very well in the race last year. So we've got sort of old school National selections and new style National selections as well in my quartet. I hope. Good luck with all your fancies, whatever you fancy. Let us know in the comments below what your 4 are as well. Don't forget, shop around for enhanced place terms. Our sponsors, BoyleSports, are offering enhanced 7 places for mobile customers. If you're in Britain and Ireland and need 25 odd horses to run, which God willing will be the case, of course. Various little provisos like that, of course, but that's a mobile offer there. It's 7 places. That will help, won't it, for the Grand National. Will they all be filled by Irish horses? Well, 10 of the 11 were last year. We will see whether we can get some British horses into the frame this year. It just remains for me to say a few thank yous. Thank you to Kevin Blake. Are you off to Liverpool?
No, I'm working for my big green chair, Boycey. And I'll give you a tip for the Masters. I had to come up with a charity bet for it earlier on today. Hideki Matsuyama. The Japanese are winning everything else at the minute. And I believe he's got great course and distance forms. There you go.
Reigning champ. So well done finding him, Kevin. I won't press you for a Masters selection, Jamie, but I hope you enjoy Liverpool as well, Jamie.
Where am I? Limerick tomorrow, Ballinrobe Friday, and then I'll be on the couch on Saturday looking forward to that.
Perfect place to take it all in. Many thanks to Kevin and to Jamie, who've been good sports and given us some brilliant insights over the 3 days as well. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to our sponsors, BoyleSports. Check out those offers that we've touched on during the course of the programme. But thank you most of all for watching and getting involved, and good luck with your Aintree selections.